The smile that changed everything. Rafiq and Salman had lived on the same narrow street in Old Miran town for more than 20 years, yet everyone who lived nearby knew one thing for certain: these two men could not stand each other. Their houses stood opposite, doors facing the same lane, windows looking straight across, yet the distance between their hearts seemed wider than the distance between two worlds. It hadn't always been like that. When they were younger, they had been classmates. Not friends, just two boys growing up in the same neighborhood, sharing the same dusty streets, the same cricket ground, the same lunch break crowds. But a rivalry had sprouted early, small and insignificant at first, like a weed unnoticed. When Rafiq got the highest score on an exam, Salman felt overshadowed. When Salman played cricket better, Rafiq resented the cheers he received. Their families had never intervened, thinking the boys would outgrow the competition. They didn't. By adulthood, competition had hardened into irritation, irritation had grown into arguments, and arguments eventually turned into full-blown hostility. Their fights were legendary. Some days they argued about whose bike blocked the street. Other days they yelled about whose dog barked too loudly. Sometimes they fought for no reason at all. One glanced at the other murmured something under his breath, and the street erupted like a volcano. Children giggled about it. Elders disapproved quietly. Shopkeepers shook their heads. But no one truly cared enough to step in. They were just Rafiq and Salman, the two who fought. The irony was that neither of them was a bad man. Rafiq owned a tiny repair shop, fixing everything from fans to old radios. He was hardworking, honest, and completely alone after losing his parents young. Salman sold vegetables from a pushcart, waking up before dawn to visit the wholesale market. He was generous to his customers, giving extra tomatoes to old women who couldn't afford much. But when it came to each other, the goodness in both men turned to stone. One hot afternoon, the air thick with dust and summer fatigue, their quarrel reached new heights. Salman's cart accidentally knocked over a bucket of water Rafiq had left outside. Rafiq burst out of his house, frustration boiling, and Salman flared instantly in response. By evening half the street had gathered outside, trying to calm them as the fight escalated. Words were thrown like stones. "You ruin everything," Rafiq shouted. "You think you own this street?" Salman roared back. Their voices rose, fists clenched, and for a moment it seemed as though violence was inevitable. But before a punch could be thrown, sudden thunder cracked overhead. A storm rolled in so quickly that everyone scattered indoors. Rafiq and Salman retreated to their houses, tension still burning, unresolved and unforgotten. The storm lasted all night. Rain drummed against tin roofs, wind rattled shutters, and lightning flashed like silver blades cutting across the sky. By morning, when the storm finally passed, the street looked like a battlefield. Branches were scattered everywhere. Water pooled in potholes. Debris clogged drains. A mango tree at the end of the street had even snapped in half. Everyone stepped outside, groaning at the destruction. Some complained, others began clearing their doorsteps. Rafiq was sweeping water away from his shop entrance when he noticed something unusual. Salman's vegetable cart had been crushed under a fallen part of the mango tree. It wasn't a simple dent, nor a broken wheel, it was completely smashed. The roof had caved in, the handles bent, the wooden boards cracked. Salman stood beside it, frozen, his expression hollow. For a vegetable seller, the cart wasn't just a tool. It was his livelihood. For the first time in years, Rafiq felt a quiet tug inside his chest. Not satisfaction. Not smugness. Something softer, something unfamiliar. Compassion. He saw the way Salman's shoulders slumped, the way his eyes stared at the broken cart as if something inside him had shattered along with it. And Rafiq remembered something he had nearly forgotten: Salman had an elderly mother to care for. No father, no siblings, just her. People gathered around, muttering sympathy but none offering real help. "Tough luck, Salman," said one. "What will you do now?" said another. "Such a loss," sighed a third. But no one stepped forward. Rafiq felt his throat grow tight. Without thinking too long, he walked back into his shop, found his old toolkit, and returned to Salman. He didn't announce himself. He didn't speak grandly. He simply crouched beside the broken cart and said, "Let me see." Salman looked up sharply, startled. His first instinct was suspicion. "What are you doing here? You want to laugh?" "No," Rafiq said quietly. "Let me see." The street went silent. People watched in disbelief. Years of hostility made the moment almost impossible to comprehend. Salman hesitated. His pride held him back, but only for a moment. Something softened in his eyes. He stepped aside. Rafiq inspected the damage. "It's bad," he said honestly. "But maybe not hopeless." For the next hour, Rafiq worked on the cart. He hammered bent metal, tightened loose bolts, replaced broken wood with old boards from his shop. Sweat dripped down his face. His hands got scratched. But he kept repairing. Salman stood beside him, sometimes helping, sometimes just watching silently, as if afraid that speaking might break the fragile peace forming between them. Neighbors whispered to each other from windows. Nobody could understand what they were witnessing. But they watched with growing warmth. At last, after almost 2 hours of work, the cart stood upright again. It wasn't perfect, there were visible patches and uneven boards, but it was functional. Salman tested it gently. The wheels rolled. The handle held firm. His eyes filled with a shine Rafiq had never seen before. "Thank you," Salman said softly. Sincerely. Not grudgingly. Not reluctantly. Truly. Rafiq wiped sweat from his forehead. "I was already fixing things today," he joked lightly. "So I fixed this too." For a moment they stood facing each other, awkward yet not hostile. The old anger between them seemed suddenly small, almost meaningless. Then Salman did something no one expected. He smiled. It wasn't a forced smile, nor an embarrassed one. It was warm, grateful, and genuine, like sunlight breaking through clouds. Ayan saw Alara look at the coins, then at the boy, her eyes softening. "It's more than enough," she said gently. She handed him the drawing wrapped in paper. "This belongs with you." The boy's face lit up, and he hugged the drawing before running back to his mother, who thanked Alara from afar. Ayan leaned toward her. "That was really kind." She looked at him with gratitude. "I learned it from someone." Later that evening, as the fair lights dimmed and families headed home with warm drinks and smiling faces, Alara approached Ayan. "Can I show you something?" They walked to the quiet side of the school, where she pulled out a fresh page from her sketchbook. It was a drawing, but not just any drawing. It was of the stone bench near the fountain where she first met him. 2 figures sat on it, a girl looking down sadly, and a boy sitting beside her, leaving space but offering silent comfort. Ayan's eyes widened. "You drew this?" Alara nodded. "That day, you were the first person who made me feel like I wasn't invisible." He swallowed, moved more than he could say. "I'm glad I was there." She smiled shyly. "You were there because you choose kindness. Always." As they stood under the winter sky, snowflakes began drifting lazily from the clouds, settling on their hair, their clothes, the quiet ground beneath their feet. Willow hue looked magical, soft, glowing, peaceful. Ayan thought about everything that had happened, the rain-soaked sketchbook, the teasing, the silent walks, the little boy at the fair, the drawing she had made for him. None of it felt heroic. None of it felt grand. But it felt right. He remembered his mother's words, you have a heart that chooses kindness, Ayan, never lose that. Maybe acts of kindness didn't change the whole world at once. Maybe they didn't silence every cruel whisper or stop every unkind person. But they changed something. Someone. And maybe that was enough. Salman looked at him, grateful once again. You fixed my cart, but you fixed more than that. You fixed our whole street. Rafiq smiled. You smiled first. That was the real repair. They shared a soft laugh. From that day on, they were no longer rivals. They became companions, sometimes teasing, sometimes serious, but always supportive. Their cooperation made the street friendlier. They helped neighbors together, shared tea on cool evenings, and even teamed up to organize a small cleanliness drive for the lane. And every time someone asked them how two men who once hated each other became friends, they answered the same thing. A smile changed everything. Because it was true. Kindness did not begin with a grand gesture. It began with a single moment, one silent decision to help, one genuine smile offered without hesitation. It grew quietly, like a seed watered gently by understanding. And in time, it blossomed into something powerful enough to heal years of hostility. Rafiq and Salman learned that kindness was not weakness, nor surrender. It was strength, the strength to let go, to forgive, to see another human not as an enemy but as someone who hurt, struggled, and hoped just as they did. And as the years passed, their friendship became one of the strongest bonds in the neighborhood. Children grew up hearing the story of the two men who fought all their lives, only to be united by a storm, a repair, and a smile. Elders repeated it proudly. The street that once echoed with their arguments now echoed with laughter, cooperation, and peace. And still, every morning, without fail, Rafiq would step outside his shop as Salman pushed his vegetable cart down the lane. They would nod, smile, and greet each other warmly. A reminder that no matter how dark the past, a little kindness could always bring back the light. Because in the end, it wasn't just a smile that changed everything. It was the choice behind it.